Welcome to this video of this series of manifesting someone coming back from the dead. Yes, when I'm recording this, it is October, so of course it seems to be the perfect month to record this series, right? If you haven't watched last week's video, please check out the playlist in the description box below because you don't want to miss that. It is a mind-blowing video, I promise you. But now we want to talk about why I actually wouldn't advise to try to manifest someone coming back from the dead. And hear me out, please. I do believe it's possible. The more I read, I do believe it's possible. I still would not suggest you to try it. However, it is up to you. Please just listen to my arguments and then decide for yourself. And if you do decide you want to do it, please let us know how it's going. I'm very interested. And I may make a video on that. So the reason why I would not advise to do it has nothing to do with zombies or vampires or anything like that. It has more to do with you personally, with your journey. We all know that death is a very deep-rooted belief. We may have experienced a death and then that person was just gone, or we heard about death, and since we're very small we learn that that is the end and there is no more after that, or maybe an afterlife, but in our reality that person is gone for good. So that is very, very deep rooted. I mean, even we know the body may be burnt, so no longer there, or buried and decaying, so there is no flesh suit of that person left anymore. And that is something we learned from very small on. Maybe even as a child you may have a pet or you saw an animal. We do have a deep concept of death, but we always manifest according to our assumptions. So that is a massive big assumption that would have to be reprogrammed. Someone like Neville did that, and there will be a video about Neville Goddard manifesting someone back from the dead. It will be a separate video, so make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you won't miss it. But Neville had already spent like a lifetime, it feels, studying these things. So his belief that we do live in somewhat like a hologram, he may not use those words, but he said everything already is fixed, but consciousness is reality. So he has already years or decades of experience when it comes to manifesting things and knowing that this, what we call reality, is not real. But if you just start about manifesting, you don't have that basis yet. If you already do have that basis, well then please go ahead and try. I'm going to give you a couple of tips for that later as well. But the problem is, if you don't have this set in stone basic about one of these deep-rooted beliefs, it is most likely not going to flourish. On top of that, why would you want to manifest someone coming back from the dead? Probably because you are in pain, because you miss this person, because you can feel a person's absence. But we all know we cannot manifest out of lack mentality. So that deep-rooted pain would have to cease first in order to then be able to manifest. I always tell my clients it's like weeds. You need to dig out the weeds before we can plant seeds. And those weeds, in that case, they go deep. Is it impossible? I don't think so. Is it a lot of work? I do think so. And I think it has to be done in the right mindset, not to fill a void, because manifesting does not work if you want to fill a void. You first have to be in peace with that situation. But in order to get peace with the situation, probably a lot of time already has passed, and then there may be even more things that we need to revise. Like if it was a family member, every situation where that person was not there, every conversation we had about that person not being there. So there's a lot of revision that needs to be done in order to dig out those weeds. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But now I want to say that if you watched last week's video, you know that the person you are missing is still alive in another timeline. They still do exist. So whatever happened that ended them in this timeline did not happen in some of the others. In some it did, but in others it didn't, because every scenario already has been created. So maybe that already can give you some condolence. They're not completely gone yet. The energy is still there, and in other timelines they are alive and some of them very happy and very healthy. But anyway, what I would advise for you to do instead, don't waste your time and your energy to try to manifest someone coming back from the dead, or rather you shifting to the timeline where they are still alive. Because I already said, revising these deep rooted beliefs, it may take a long time. So my first video, not last week's, the first one, I would say it was more like theoretical than practical, but still I do believe it is possible. Yes, because if we can shift timelines, then that timeline is still available. Going back to the metaphor with the radio channels, that channel still does exist, but maybe we have to change our frequency a lot in order to get there. There is a lot to be revised. First of all, you would have to revise your concept of death, that person is really gone. And then you would have to revise that specific death. And then you would have to revise, already said it, every conversation you've had about that person not being there. Or maybe not every single one, but a multitude of them, the most important ones. Because your subconscious mind has the assumption that person is no longer there. And then when you talked about it, you fed this assumption, you fueled it. And we have to do the opposite now. So one reason why when we try to manifest something and it won't come is, well, it will come, you just need to give it more time. Another one is we're not staying on a mental diet. And another reason is that we do have stronger programs that encounter that. And again, death is such a strong program. So we do have to override this very strong program first, because if you don't override it and then you just try to manifest, oh, this person is alive, again, if you are as experienced as Neville Goddard, that may work because you already have this deeper program. I can manifest anything. But this deep-rooted program is not just a mental program, it is also based on a ton of experience. Another example is, for example, if you want to manifest love, a relationship. It doesn't matter how often you visualize being with that person. If you do have an old story, maybe even going back to childhood, like I'm never chosen, I'm never nurtured, I never get that love, that is still a dominant story that needs to be addressed. And the same is here with death. That story of death needs to be addressed. So when we want to revise death, it is just not that one death. We have to revise the concept of death, meaning every story we've heard about death. So you can already say that's like a mountain of things that needs to be addressed, because you have already experienced people in the past leaving, and maybe it's not your personal experience, but then it is something you've heard over and over and over again. So that experience is there of people leaving and not coming back. And we would have to revise every single time we have been confronted with death and it was ultimate and that the person didn't come back. That's a lot of work. Also, it may be hard to find all of those programs that would have need to be revised. The Mandela effect proves that it is possible to jump to a timeline where someone is still alive. And in the last video from last week, I already gave you some stories. And again, I will give you another story about Neville Goddard. It happened to him as well. But with the Mandela effect, it was someone that people were not personally attached to. It was Mandela. They heard about him in the news, so they knew him, they knew of him. But those people who manifested that, they were not like family members. His family members probably don't have the memory of him dying in prison, because those family members who experienced him being alive, or experienced him being alive back then, they stayed on a timeline where that always had happened. That was their experience. Also, with the examples I gave you, it was often someone who was a bit more removed, like the uncle or a estranged cousin. It wasn't someone in their like immediate group, like father, mother, best friend, lover, spouse, child. So I believe if we do have this personal connection, it is harder because then the loss was bigger and the pain was bigger, the grief was bigger, and that would have to be revised. With Neville, it seemed to be a person that he knew well, but again, Neville had this ton of experience in knowing I can manifest anything. So if you're close to someone who died, then the wound, of course, is a lot bigger than when we just heard in the news that someone has passed, or it was some distant relative or someone we didn't have that close connection with. However, if you're up for the challenge, again, please try and let us know in the comments how you're doing. If you have lost someone and you miss them, what would I suggest that you do manifest? I would advise that you try to manifest being okay, being healed, being at peace. Because why would you want to manifest that person back? Most likely because there is pain, because there is lack, because there is unhappiness. And that would be easier to manifest to being aligned again, to laugh again, to feel happiness again, to feel peace with the situation, to heal. It's the path of least resistance. And even if that death has been a while back, again, you would have to revise every situation where that person should have been there, like every family gathering, and we were talking about that person not being there. So all of that would have to be revised. So the path of least resistance is manifesting you being okay, or if someone close to you experienced a shocking death, them to be okay as well. And you can manifest that. You can manifest peace. You can manifest, still loving that person. Of course, there will always be days like birthdays, missing them is completely fine because they have been such an important part in your life. So it's not about not ever being sad again, but we talk about this deep pain and grief, and you can manifest that to ease. So you can ask yourself, what would it feel like to be at peace with the situation, to be healed? What would my life look like if I have moved on from that? And again, moving on is not forgetting, but being happy with your life, being happy at where you are. What would that mean to you? Or seeing that person who is in grief to be happy again. Come up with what would you wish that their life would look like. How do they feel in the situation? So that loss, it will always be a part of you. Of course, that person will always be a part of you, especially if it was like a close family member or worst case scenario, even your child. But try to imagine, what would a good day be like? Start from there. Maybe not what would a good life be like if you're still in this pain. What would a good day feel like? What would it be like if that beloved person's birthday came up? And instead of grieving, I would celebrate them. I would celebrate, I knew this amazing person. I had this amazing person in my life. I'm so happy that I got to know them. So instead of grieving, you could imagine lighting a candle and just thanking them for their existence. So that could be a scene to visualize. That could be your anchor. That even on those big days, there is peace and there's gratitude for, having had them. And not the loss part, but before the loss, there were some good times, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't miss them so much. So this person will always stay important to you, and that is okay. That is fine. But you can still try to open up to new relationships. Maybe if it was a spouse, to a new spouse, or open your heart to another pet or child or friend or whomever it is. I mean, you cannot manifest to have another mom, but you can manifest to be open and have amazing people in your life. And if you see someone in grief, manifest them to laugh again, to be silly and do what you did before that loss. Manifest that version of them to find peace and happiness that you got to spend time with that specific person. So again, why would you want to manifest someone coming back from the dead? If it's really out of loss and grief and pain, I already told you that energy won't make someone coming back, but you resists. So I get you miss them, but why would you want them back? To feel better, right? For the pain to go, you want to feel better. Because you think you cannot be happy ever again, but you can, and that is what you can manifest. And that will require less revision, if any at all. It just requires asking yourself again, what would a good day look like? And then maybe you can work yourself up to what would a good life look like. Go like 10 years in the future. Everything is already like settled, and you already have lived your new dream life for years. What would that look like? And then hold that vision, manifest that. So this is what I would advise for you to do instead of manifesting that person coming back or jumping timelines where they still are alive. Manifest peace, manifest happiness, manifest ease, manifest to laugh again, manifest to be able to be silly again. By the way, I do have this other channel. I don't do much right now. It is about divination, but I do have some pick a cards with channeled messages from deceased loved ones. You will find a link below, or this is my channel and you can check out the readings of deceased loved ones, and maybe there's a message for you if you want to find some peace and healing. But that was not it. I do have a bonus tip for you. As Neville Goddard said, everyone is you pushed out. So you have created that person first of all. So that person was a creation of you, a projection of something within you. All of it, from the beginning to the end. That was your manifestation. So you already manifested a person who is like that. And you can do it again. It doesn't have to be the same body, but you can manifest someone in the same frequency that they've had. Let's say it was like a spouse. Yeah, you can have that person, that stream of consciousness, someone who is so much like them that you would be astounded, like, oh my God, is this my person? It feels like deja vu. You can manifest that. You can reconnect to that energy, because everything is energy. Everything is you pushed out. And even though that stream of consciousness, that flesh suit may have passed on, that energy still exists. And you can manifest that energy coming back to you in another flesh suit. And if it was your child, then maybe it's not having another child and will be the same child, but still you can manifest that stream of consciousness coming back to you. Maybe as a grandchild, maybe as niece, nephew, a good friend's child. You can have that energy coming back into your life. And you will see your person in the other person's eyes. Maybe they don't even have to have the same eye color, but you will look at them and you will recognize that frequency, that stream of consciousness, that soul. Because again, everyone is you pushed out. But you've created once, you can create again. It doesn't have to be the same body, the same physical body. It can be your person in another body, and maybe in another role. As I said, if it was like your mother, you won't manifest a new mom, but you could manifest a friend. It doesn't even have to be an older friend. Could be someone who is your age or maybe even younger, but someone where you recognize that frequency and you will feel, oh my God, that is that same energy. They are back in my life, just in a different way. So maybe you could try that. Manifest someone who is more than just like them, but so much like them that it is part of them, incarnated in that new person. But again, my warning is that if you're still in this pain and then you would try to manifest someone coming back in that exact same body, the difficulties I see is, or the danger I see, is that this may turn into some kind of obsession, into something really unhealthy. Because then you just want to manifest, I want them back to end the pain, and then you focus on the pain and you focus on the lack and you try to fight the lack because you want to overcome the lack by getting that what you miss back. And I'm afraid this is not going to work because you're not at peace with the situation, but you need to be at peace with it in order to jump to the other timeline if that is what you want to manifest. But if you just want to have fun with it, if you just want to test your manifesting abilities, yeah, try it. Go ahead. Let us know in the comments how you're doing. So if you're already at peace with the situation, or maybe you're trying to just test it by manifesting someone who you knew, but you weren't that close, that attached. So when they passed, there wasn't a lot of pain and grief, maybe a little bit of sadness, but not a whole lot. Yeah, then go ahead. Let me know. I would love to do a video on that success story. Anyway, if this helped you, please like, subscribe, share, hit the bell icon, leave your comments, and make sure you do hit the bell icon, because there's more to come on this series. And I see you there in another video, or check out any of my other videos. Maybe I see you in a personal coaching, and till then I wish you all the best now. Bye bye.